We've got a lot to talk about. Panic everywhere as these running backs, these rookie running backs, land in spots that feel very, very uncomfortable. I'll admit, like, who wants Braylon Allen to go to the New York Jets? Braylon Allen just got drafted by the New York Jets. So all these breakout running backs are seeing one of these rookie running backs land on roster. Braylon Allen in New York. Achane now has to deal with Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright got drafted by the Miami Dolphins. Blake Corum to the LA Rams. Everybody's going to panic to an extreme degree, though. So there's a perspective here that needs to be taken into account, a perspective that you need to have in order to attack this situation with clarity. And that perspective is that this rookie running back class was very weak to begin with, and everybody needs a backup in the National Football League. And in some of these cases, people will overreact and panic, and we get to scoop up these players with the breakout players, the Kyren Williams, the Achane, the Breece Hall. Obviously, Breece Hall and Kyren have already broken out, but they're still in the middle of being breakout players, and their values all just took a hit in many people's eyes, and there's an advantage to that. That is advantageous to people that don't overreact and panic to the tune of these very mediocre running backs getting very mediocre draft capital backing up these very elite players. We're going to talk about specifically this one. We'll do videos on Achane and his situation with Jalen Wright. We're going to do a Breece Hall and Braylon Allen video. So another version of this for both those guys. This is about Kyren. This is about how Panic Peters everywhere are going to actually help you win your league. And this cuffing situation is pretty damn good when you think about it. You just have to look at it from a different lens of the Fantasy Football Show. Kiren Williams, Panic Chamber, emergency edition of the Fantasy Football Show begins now.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios.
It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live!
Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com news desk, here is your breaking news.
Yeah, I think it's very, very, very important what Travis just said. This one phrase right here. Blake Corum's a backup. Braylon Allen's a backup. Jalen Wright is a backup. So everyone needs to first look at that type of thing. Second of all, this is a weak running back class that we needed situation to potentially put one of these running backs in a very good spot, right? To become from good to great. This is not a great running back class that gets handed, that dishes out good landing spots and great running backs become elite. This is a good. When I say good, I mean like they're good. They're potentially running backs that if they go into good situations can be good. Could be maybe slightly better than good if it's a pretty potent situation. Maybe there's not a lot of touchdown production, something like that. Then like Braylon Allen becomes something, right? Trey Benson is probably the best running back in this class from a overall perspective, and he was thought to be by a lot of people, and he went to an amazing landing spot. So Trey Benson goes from probably the best good running back in this class to potentially a great running back. Trey Benson to the freaking moon in Arizona. And we'll have a whole video on that later. We talked about it. You can go watch the Arizona Cardinal live stream that we had freaking last night because the Arizona Cardinals are going to the moon. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, and on that note, check this out. On that note, look at this bad boy. That's not even going to go on. Look at this. That was courtesy of Perps right there. Perps sent me that. Okay, I just want to say this right from the jump. There's no panic. Panic will ensue.
Alert. Alert. Panic mode initiated.
Panic will ensue everywhere. Everyone's going to say to themselves, this sucks. A running back was taken. A running back was taken, Smitty. There was no backup running back to Kyren Williams. And if this turns Kyren Williams into what was a 13-14 overall player, and I can tell you right now, I can guarantee to you right now that enough Panic Peters will come into even this live stream, or at least tomorrow's. Yeah, we're going to talk about Brooks as well. Brooks is a fantastic running back as well. But Trey Benson, to me, is the best overall running back in this class. Braylon Allen was the best between the tackles, potential running back. And so we will talk about Braylon Allen and what that does. Look, in the best, quickest running back to hit the hole was Jalen Wright, and now he goes to Miami. So there are like, when you look at the Saturn men.
The Saturn men.
One small step for man, one giant leap for Saturn.
Braylon Allen goes to the Jets. Corum goes to the Rams. And Jalen Wright goes to the Dolphins.
Spaceman.
So it does kind of suck. It feels like a nut kick. I get it. When it first was announced on each one of these, I'm not gonna lie and say I went yes, but it's not bad. It's not bad because at the end of the day, you give Braylon Allen to the Breece Hall owner. Now Breece Hall falls from, let's say, number 3 down to, I don't know, does he fall to the mid first? Does he fall to the late first? Now you cuff this situation and you're secure as hell, and you got Breece Hall at a discount, and Braylon Allen's still easy to cuff because he's a backup. If Kyren Williams falls from 13, 14, 15 overall to 3.1, let's say, off the Panic Peters, and then all of a sudden you've got Kyren Williams able to be cuffed with Blake Corum, and no one's going to draft Blake Corum early because he's a backup. Now all of a sudden you have the most secure elite running back one in fantasy when you think about it. In Achane, there's Mostert, there's Wright, there's 3, and then obviously Achane. There's 3 running backs now in Miami, and Miami loves speed, and Wright is the quickest to hit the hole, but he's still very raw. And Braylon Allen and Blake Corum and also Jalen Wright, all three of these guys were mediocre graded running backs to the tune of falling into day 3. Like, we have to understand that the league is saying these guys are underrated, maybe, right? Underrated, but they're late grade running backs. This is a very, very, very mediocre running back class. The only 2 real elite prospects are Jonathan Brooks in Carolina. Fantastic landing spot. We'll have a video on that one. That's a potential top 12 running back right there in fantasy football. Okay, potential top 12 running back in fantasy football. Did someone just drop gifted memberships? Was that gifted memberships by Ron Navy gifting 50 gifted memberships?
$50. Give me $50, honey. Let that body brother Smitty. Give me $50. Oh, yeah.
Ron Navy just handing out gifted memberships like they're literally candy. Like they're literally candy. I don't think I can put this helmet on. It's got this thing inside. I'll have to try and look, but anyway. What was I saying? Was I talking about the Cardinals? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was talking about the Rams. Kyren Williams, here's what I'm going to say, guys. If we're sitting here, okay, and we're now looking at a second round player, Kyren Williams going right here. We now see Kyren fall to 3.1. Kyren Williams at 3.1 is a bigger league winner. I don't care if there's Trey Benson on the roster. That would have been probably the worst thing. Trey Benson and Jonathan Brooks have the most ability to become running back ones in great situations than anybody in the draft class. Braylon Wright was a sleeper running back. Jonathan Brooks was thought to be towards ACL, the stud running back of the entire draft class. If Jonathan Brooks didn't tear his ACL, he would go as the number one running back out of the draft class no matter what, and he'd be drafted as a running back 1 for a team and be a top 12 running back prospect. And that's what happened. Even with the torn ACL, he still was drafted as a running back 1 for his team, Carolina, and he's now going to become a top 12 running back. And Jonathan Brooks going to the moon. I like it. I love it. We're going to do a Jonathan Brooks video. This is not about Jonathan Brooks, but I want to make that point abundantly clear. Blake Corum was never going to be a starting running back, become an elite player. He's a great backup. He's a great a handcuff. If you need him to play a couple games, he's going to do it, and he's going to do it live. Okay, and I like that about him. Okay, and he's a hard worker. But I said from the beginning, he's not somebody a team's going to say this is our starter. This is a player that everybody kept passing on, and the Rams said we want to make you our backup running back. Okay, so that's a very, very important point here. He is a backup running back, as Travis said at the beginning of the show. He's a backup running back. But what does that make him? Free. Nobody's going to go drafting Blake Corum high. Maybe you reach a little bit above ADP. The dust needs to settle before we know where Blake Corum's redraft and best ball underdog fantasy promo code Smitty. Hit the link and we'll be drafting live. You can bet your bottom dollar pretty much almost every night, soon going forward. As soon as this draft concludes, we start jumping into the drafts. The best ball manias kick off right away. I think maybe midnight tonight. I'm not positive, but I think so. So we'll jump in. But where's Blake Corum go? I don't know. Blake Corum starts going like really, really early. We'll have to take him a little early, but early, he can only go so early because he's a backup running back. If Kyren falls to 3.1, he now becomes a bigger win-a-league player because you can cuff him. You can cuff him to Blake Corum with ease. This 3.1 pick is better than the 2.2 or 2.3 pick. Kyren still goes to Saturn, guys.
To Saturn.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's a Saturn man. I'm not panicked. I'm not a panic Peter. You shouldn't be a panic Peter. And the fact that people even are having these panic attacks over Blake Corum, a running back nobody wanted to make as their starter, a running back even Harbaugh didn't take advantage of when he was sitting there dangling like a carrot in front of him, and he didn't do anything. The Dallas Cowboys absolutely shotted the bed. If I'm a CeeDee Lamb owner, I just diarrheaed my pants today. I just diarrheaed my pants very badly because the Dallas Cowboys clearly are lost right now. They don't know what in the hell they're doing. You have Dowdle as your starter. You have all of these, and dare I call them again, mediocre to good running backs, Blake Corum, Braylon Allen, Jalen Wright, that need ideal situations to climb up and become potentially high-end running back twos, and they all could. I want to make something also abundantly clear. I'm not backing off Blake Corum, backing off, because I do like him, I just didn't love him. I'm not backing up Braylon Allen. I really kind of like the sleeper upside in him, but he had to land somewhere good because he is a mediocre running back trying to become a good running back. I like these guys. I want it to be abundantly clear. They're fantastic cuffs, and if they get in there, they'll do okay. But these teams continued to pass on them to the tune of day 1 and day 2. We're talking about late draft capital. Not that players can't rise up. Kyren Williams was a late draft capital guy, but he has solidified himself since then. Late draft capital guys have an uphill climb, and the teams do not value them the same way. There's a world where Jalen Wright doesn't even hit the field. There's a world where Braylon Allen doesn't really translate as much as we thought, and he's no different than any other running back we thought would do something and really didn't. Tank Bigsby. Is Braylon Allen really much different than Tank Bigsby prospect-wise when you really think about it? If Tank Bigsby was thrown into this draft class, it sounds weird now because you know he didn't do that well. But if Tank Bigsby was thrown into this draft class, wouldn't he be getting drafted kind of around where these guys are going? The answer is yes. I'll answer it for you. You may not be able to see that right now, but I guarantee you, Tank Bigsby. Braylon Allen is Tank Bigsby in a way. Blake Corum is Tank Bigsby in a way. And Jalen Wright is Tank Bigsby in a way. Just because Tank Bigsby failed doesn't mean that you could say, oh, that doesn't sound right, Smitty. It does sound right, because Tank Bigsby didn't go to a place that unlocked him, that had him, mature and evolve. And as much as I love these backup running backs, Blake Corum is a backup running back. And this situation is so cuffable now. And the kick to the nut ADP value right here at 3.1, it only frustrates you if you've already drafted or traded for or have Kyren at high second round value, because you feel like now I could have got a better discount. That's the only thing you should be feeling negative about. Everything else is not a problem. Everything else should be feeling like glory here. This is the best situation in a quietly good way that feels bad, you just don't realize it, that we could have maybe encountered. And I know what everyone's going to say. This didn't work out for Walker and Charbonnet. That's not exactly true. Nor does it really relate at the end of the day. Don't tie something that didn't work out to something else and just try and tell a story with completely different components. Number one, Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet did work out. You cuffed them. It was a secure situation. Charbonnet didn't just take from Walker all year and prove this kind of fear, correct, that you have maybe on the Kyren and Blake Corum situation. No, instead, what happened was, and I warned everybody about this about week 5 or 6, I said, hey, I'm adjust and adapt, I'm adjust and adapt Adam here. Okay, I'm going to come in and I'm going to say something that's going to piss some people off. About week 4, 5, 6, I came in, or pretty much every week in week 4, 5, 6, came in and said, I know I pumped up Walker like a madman, and I still love him, and I don't want you to get rid of him. I don't want you to sell him low. I don't want you to sell him cheap. I don't want you to knee-jerk react, to be a knee-jerk reacting Roger. I want you to just consider selling Walker on this high because he was being fed massive touchdowns but not getting massive production. And it seemed like Seattle was misusing their running back room entirely. It wasn't that Seattle... By the way, who was it yesterday that super chatted that I didn't get to their super chat? I think it was... I pinned it in my last video. Let me see if I can find it real quickly. I just want to make sure that this guy, if he's watching right now, he understands that I answered his question. I pinned the time of the video in the comments. I think it was Trevor Watts. Go to the Marvin Harrison Jr. video, and at 2 hours and 38 minutes in, or I think that was it, I answer your question. I pinned it in my comment. You just click the link in the comment. But Trevor Watts, I'm so sorry if I took too long and you ended up bailing. Trevor, if you're here, please speak up. Trevor, roll call. Trevor, are you here? This situation, when you think about it, is not, you can't tie it to the Charbonnet and Walker situation. So week 4 or 5, I came in last year and I pissed off a lot of people, and some unrealistic ungers came in and said, Smitty, why did you change directions on Walker? This really pisses me off. I spent a draft capital pick on him in the 6th round. Where is a great value? Smitty, I spent a 6th rounder. You told me to draft Walker, and now you're telling me to trade him. I don't like this. People got mad at me for adjusting and adapting. Like, I'm going to always adjust and adapt. If you think I'm just going to stick to my preseason prediction like it's not, like it, I can't even adjust. I got to stick to it to prove that I was right back then. I'm always going to adjust and adapt. Always adjust and adapt. 100% adjust and adapt. I might love, maybe someday I don't love Kyren, and I'll tell you if that day ever comes. I'm not going to dig my heels in and be an idiot about it. I'm going to be real. I'm going to try and let you know the moment I feel differently about a certain situation, so you can all, if you want, maybe you disagree with me, but if you want, react, overreact, underreact, whatever you got to do to react. But I'm going to tell you what I feel, when I feel it, how I feel it, the moment I feel it. And that's the nature of my channel. I'm going to tell you what I think every step of the way. And Fred, I can guarantee Fred, please tell everybody Corum is going to eat. Tell everybody, anybody that loves Corum, I can tell you hates Achan. Fred, admit it. You're an Achan doubter. These go hand in hand, and that's fine. It's a type. You have a type. You have a doubting type. You have an underdog type mentality. It's fine. You probably would have loved Kiren Williams. You probably would have loved him if you could get on the other side of this situation. But it's okay, Fred. Different opinions are fine. I'm not trying to roast your comment. I'm asking you to tell everybody if you could. These are the comments that I think are going to allow us to steal away Kyren and cuff him to Blake Corum at third round, and who the hell knows what kind of Corum round value we're getting. Blake Corum's going, I don't know where. We got to let the dust settle. But I absolutely love how many people will see Blake Corum passed over by every team over and over and over. Blake Corum's the guy that's going to take Kyren Williams' job, the guy that proved to be really the number one running back in the National Football League between the tackles. This guy is better than any running back in the league between the tackles. He proved it last year in 12 games, scoring 15 touchdowns. In 12 games, he scored 15 touchdowns. Is he a good fit? Absolutely. Does he kind of feel a little Blake Corum-like? Absolutely. That's why McVay drafted him. He's a fantastic cuff. But if anybody literally thinks that this guy who was passed over and thought of anyways to be too potentially not built the perfect type of body structure and frame for the NFL, bruising between the tackle running back position, passed over and over, is the guy that's going to take the job from Kyren Williams, you're out of your mind. And I love that you think that way, Fred. And I want you to tell everybody. I want you to be able to go get me better value on my future drafts where I'm getting Kyren in round 3. And we can't cry over spilled milk about the fact that we paid mid-second round value or top of second round value. Move on. Look to the future. The future in best ball drafts on Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Smitty. Dropping that link. We'll be drafting on Underdog. I just dropped it in the live chat. It's in the description of the video. Code Smitty gets you up to $100, doubled on your first deposit. We'll be drafting and doing amazing things. If Kyren is going in the late second, I'm getting him in the second everywhere. Finally, Doubting Donnie coming on board the Kyren train. Donnie, we might get him at 3.1 is what I'm trying to tell you. We might get him at 3.1. Donnie's finally coming around. So, let's see here. Been nice if Wright went to a running back needy team. That's the thing. That Braylon Allen, Jalen Wright, Blake Corum were overlooked so much because they're not thought to be hugely likely successful running back players in the National Football League to the tune of being somebody's one. Not that there were a lot of openings, but there were a lot of cloudy situations these guys could have come in and become potentially the future running back one. Houston was one of them that I loved. Arizona was, we talked about it over and over before the Trey Benson pick the night before and the night before, that Arizona and Houston were probably the two most crafty running back spots. And I even said that even if Dallas, who punted running back, Dallas crapped and diarrhea the bed today. I will talk about Lamb. I'm really worried about Lamb. I'm selling Lamb to a certain degree in Dynasty because I don't know if this team's going to fold, and if they fold, Dak's gone. If they fold, McCarthy's gone. I don't think people realize how good McCarthy and Dak are. I don't think people realize how good McCarthy and Dak are. And so that's gonna be an issue. If Dak and McCarthy together are gone, then Lamb as we know it vanishes. I'm not saying Lamb is propped up and he's a bad player and he becomes a pumpkin. I'm saying Lamb is who he is because he's in a McCarthy system getting fed the ball. Doesn't mean he wouldn't anywhere else. If you put him in another good system and feed him the ball, Lamb's number 1, 2, or 3 in the National Football League. No one's saying Lamb isn't an absolute monster.
Get lambed.
But you take McCarthy out of Dallas, you take Dak out of Dallas, you don't know what you have. And you look at what right now JJ's value is in fantasy. Even with McCarthy, he's still around 6 overall instead of 1. That's a huge hit. Even though that's only 6 spots, going from 1 to 6, it's huge. In round 1, that's massive. That's like, saying, 1 second's not a big deal if somebody beats somebody by 1 second in a mile run when you're running a 450 mile versus a 451 mile, or in some of your cases, 705 and 706. Okay, your boy can't run a 4-minute mile before, but I have in the past. But a second's not a big deal. Okay, what's a big deal is when you're running the 100-yard dash and you're a second apart. That's what 1 to 6 drop in ADP is inside round 1. When it's shorter amount of time, 1 to 6 is as big a drop as dropping an entire round when you're talking about somebody being a 4.5 or a 5.5. 1.1 and 1.6 is about as equivalent as dropping from 4.5 to 5.5. So look at JJ. Lamb is in trouble because Dallas is crap in the bed. They didn't get a running back. They're not retaining Dak. They're not retaining McCarthy. Maybe they do extend them coming up here soon. Parsons. You got a whole problem in Dallas. This is what I'm talking about, guys. I'm literally here doing a live stream, and I've made it like so abundantly clear. Let's see here. I have HN, a Saturn man. I want to trade him for another Saturn man, MHJ, in Dynasty Superflex. Would you do it? Yeah, MHJ is a top 5 pick. But I grabbed the wrong comment. There's another comment here. That's a good question, though. There's another comment here. There's constant comments in here where people are freaking out. Here's, I believe, a good one. Yeah, Ryan MC. Kyren was never going to be alone. People don't understand that, Ryan. You do, and hats off to you. Everybody needs a backup. Blake Corum is a backup. I even told you earlier before the draft, he has to fall to the most ideal situation, or I don't even think he's a great NFL running back. He's in a good situation, though, as a cuff. If Kyren misses 4 games, Blake Corum goes in, probably is pretty productive. Does he take his job? What in the... No, he doesn't take Kiren Williams' job. Kiren Williams scored 15 touchdowns in 12 games last year. Kiren Williams is the best pure running back in the game right now between the tackles. You can laugh at that because the longevity isn't there. I get that. He's not proven to a lot of people's measurement. But for me, looking at runners and saying, okay, who are the top running backs in the league? Christian McCaffrey, he's a hybrid. He's a great hybrid, but he's a hybrid. He's not the number 1 rushing running back in the league. Bijan is up there, no doubt about it. Kyren, Bijan, Breece Hall's a hybrid. He's going to do everything. Pass catching, rushing. You got literally a handful of running backs that have, I can be the number 1 running back between the tackles in the National Football League. The number 1 running back between the tackles in the National Football League. Value. And to everybody that doesn't trust McVay, I get it. That's why you cuff him. Jeff, this guy just became potentially late second to maybe, if we're lucky, 3.1 material. This guy, his counterpart, Blake Corum, now a handcuff, now a backup in the National Football League, can't climb that high. Who's going to draft a backup running back way out of pocket? Nobody. So, Jeff, if you don't trust McVay, why don't you cuff the two and have the number one running back maybe in the National Football League in terms of security, injury? You're always going to have your 17 starts. That would be my question, Jeff. That would be my approach, Jeff. And that's what I'm here to convey about McVay. Smitty, you are right. You on point. This is why I watch you. You talk real football facts, not ghost advice. Thank you. Appreciate you, bird to the moon. This is going to be fun. I'm going to tell you right now, we're not going to hear the end of this ever. We're going to hear this the entirety. Every live stream we come in, a Doubting Donnie, even though Doubting Donnie in this chat right now seems to be a Kyren supporter of the dropped ADP. So hats off to the Doubting Donnie in the building. But we're going to have a lot of Doubting Debbies that come in and literally say things like, Kyren's cooked, Corum to the moon, Braylon Allen's going to absolutely steal Breece Hall's job, Jalen Wright is going to take over and become the number one in Miami. And that one will attack on a different video, the Braylon Allen, Breece Hall. No one takes Breece Hall's job number one, okay? No one takes Breece Hall's job number one. Could he take some of the goal line work, Braylon Allen? Yeah, but there was people that said Braylon Allen was not quick enough and he wouldn't translate the NFL level, and he's a day 3 pick. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Day 3 pick's not taking Breece Hall's job or really even consuming any of his work. He's a change of pace back. They didn't have a good backup running back. They need to keep Breece Hall healthy. And Braylon Allen might not even succeed. Jalen Wright had nothing but open rushing lanes in college. His biggest knock was he never saw 8-man fronts or stacked boxes. He saw 4 and 5-man boxes. 4 and 5-man boxes, a majority because of the way that offense was. You can't really hold that against Jalen Wright, really. And I didn't. But everybody and their mother said Jalen Wright looked good because he faced 4 and 5-man boxes all the time. Got draw plays, nice little plays with no defensive front whatsoever, trying to penetrate the offensive line, and he just ripped off these big runs. And again, you can hold that against him if you want. I didn't, but he's not proven. That's why he fell. Braylon Allen's not proven. That's why he fell. Blake Corum may have been proven in terms of production, but he played for a guy that fed him, ran the ball. No one ran the ball like Michigan. That's what's going to happen in LAC. And boy, are they doing what exactly I predicted they would do. It's a J.K. Dobbins, Gus Bus situation. It's a no elite wide receiver. I like McConkey a lot. This was a pretty good landing spot for him because there's vacated targets that need to go somewhere. But he's still going to be in a run-first offense, and he's the kind of receiver that I could see getting misused, though, in certain situations, and I worry enough about Harbaugh. I wonder what McConkey's consistency is going to be. I think he'll use him. I like McConkey a lot. I think we tread lightly, but this is going to be crazy. Guerendo goes to San Francisco. That was a really good move by the Niners. I got to admit, that was a fantastic move. Guerendo is a very crafty running back. So getting Guerendo is nice. We'll see what Shanahan knows what to do with him. The problem with Shanahan is rookies don't climb up his depth chart very quickly, and I have a feeling Guerendo could go there and die, even though he's a very, very, very solid pick. Paul has a logical take on it. Thank you, Paul, for being logical. I think Corum helps Kyren. People, the funny thing is, like, this is the way people's minds operate. So again, I'm going to leave this up here because this is very important. 3.1 drop, right? 3.1 drop for Kyren with a cuffing situation of Corum in, let's call it, this is 4, 5, 6, I don't know, 7, 8, 9. Is Corum going, I want to say Corum's going to go in like the double digits. So Corum, we'll call Corum somewhere in this 10, 11, 12 area. So cuffing Blake Corum cuffing Corum late in double-digit rounds with the 3.1 Kyren is win a league material if I've ever seen it in my life. And the way people's minds work is they say, okay, Kyren, and no running back 2, they sit there and they say to themselves, this is never going to get full. Broncos take Estime, by the way. Denver Broncos take Estime. He's a pretty good running back. But, again, he's no different than these guys. He's totally unproven. You're not sure it's going to translate. But a decent prospect for Denver. Kiren Williams and no running back. People just think this is going to stay this way all offseason. Like, I hope they don't get a running back. I hope they don't back up Kyren. I hope there's nobody there. They've got bodies, but nobody that's sufficient. Okay, nobody in there that can stay healthy. Nobody in there that can do good. Yeah, could Kyren get banged up because McVay runs the ball so much and pounds the rock? And everyone says that a lot. That's the biggest knock on Kyren is McVay's going to break him. McVay's going to break him. Well, now he gets a backup and a fantastic, very cheap cuff that is going to be easy to cuff in round, double-digit rounds. And now you have people complaining. Okay, he's going to get hurt. He's going to get hurt. Well, let's have a good cuff situation. One that doesn't threaten his value. How about Blake Corum? Kind of compact guy. Kind of feels like McVay could use him in a similar fashion. He's got some similar skill sets. They're not the same as Kyren's. Kyren's a number 1 running back in the National Football League between the tackles and touchdowns on the ground. But for some reason, when somebody gets a backup, everybody freaks out. Like, what's the guy's name? Abacandy or whatever the hell his name is in New York. That guy's not necessarily getting it done, right? He's okay. He's pretty decent, but he never really grabbed our attention, right? So they bring in Braylon Allen, which was the biggest of the mediocre prospects, the biggest build, the biggest version, the grind it between the tackles guy. I really liked him. He's actually a mid-season monster. We'll probably take him off the list now, unfortunately. But he's definitely a guy that I'm intrigued by, right? I'm intrigued by Braylon Allen. I'm not going to lie. But Braylon Allen's not taking Breece Hall's job. Braylon Allen is now going to and people need to understand this. All these running backs, Jalen Wright, Braylon Allen, Blake Corum, these are rookie running backs that were so volatile that they needed to go the most ideal spot to flourish and progress. Now that they go to play backup roles, they're not going to progress as much. They're not going to mature as much. They're not going to come into their own as quickly. These guys didn't have the luxury of going and being a backup for a year and a half. You become a Tank Bigsby like that if you're a mediocre running back and you go into a backup role and never get fully utilized or unlocked. You turn into Tank Bigsby. Like that. Tank Bigsby had as much allure as Braylon Allen, Blake Corum, and everybody else we're talking about that's landing in backup roles. The only true actual top 12 running back workhorse potential guys are Trey Benson and Jonathan Brooks. Everybody else is now a backup running back. Everybody else is a backup running back. Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, and Tank Bigsby's now. Blake Corum, Tank Bigsby. Doesn't mean he can't fill in from time to time, but he's Tank Bigsby. Braylon Allen is Tank Bigsby. Jalen Wright, Tank Bigsby. And you could say what you want about little pieces of their game. That's why we were intrigued. But as I said over and over, name a running back, even Trey Benson and Jonathan Brooks, I did not talk about very much. Name a running back that I talked about and touted all offseason long as the next big running back. You didn't hear it from me. I was abundantly clear that this class was mediocre enough that the landing spots needed to be there or they wouldn't flourish. And the only 2 running backs that got elite landing spots were Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks. So they now become elite or mediocre to good running backs into potentially great running backs. Not elite, but great running backs. Not elite. Elite would be a guy that could be a top 5 running back. Trey Benson might, if he's lucky, and this is great, linger in the Marshawn Lynch territory, like 8 to 14 overall in a fantasy draft, year after year after year. That is fantastic. That is not elite in my mind. That is absolutely epically amazing, right? If Trey Benson's a top 8 to 15 overall pick, he could be that. Najee Harris was going there. You're talking about a nice territory of running back. That's where Marshawn Lynch lived for years and years and years. Nothing wrong with a second round overall running back that's going in round 2 of fantasy football drafts. That's where Jonathan Brooks and also That's where both these running backs, Trey Benson and Jonathan Brooks, can live fantasy-wise because they were handed elite running back situations and they were mediocre to good running backs. These other guys will not develop as backups. They needed these roles to elevate and escalate their game upward. Josh from Cali, you got about 30 seconds, then I got to jump.
Hello, bro. Yo, what up, Smitty? Hey,
What's
man,
up?
I love the take on Tank Bigsby, man. That's exactly how I'm looking at Kyren. I think I'll be able to nab Kyren at the 301, 2.8, you know? I'm going to try to grab Kyren everywhere, brother. I think Tank Bigsby's the perfect comp to what Blake Corum is, man.
Yeah, I mean, Ziggy off. It really is the exact way to look at the situation. Now, can I be a realistic Roger here for a second? Ziggy off. This is me being as realistic as I can. I try to be as objective and unbiased as I can. And I oftentimes get coined as something else. And that's fine. I could really care less. The real people know what I try and bring to the table. Have I been biased before? Of course. Have I made mistakes before? Of course I have. Do I miss on stuff? Of course I have. Of course I do. And I will continue to. And I can miss on one of these. If I'm being as realistic as possible, is there a scenario? Rattler goes to the Saints. That was a nice draft selection. If I'm being realistic, I'll say this. Is there a world where one of these running backs, Blake Corum backing up Kyren, Braylon Allen backing up Breece Hall, and Jalen Wright backing up the Miami running backs? Is there a world where one of these guys ends up taking the job on an injury and becoming way more valuable than we think? And then maybe even like Breece Hall is probably not that scenario, but like let's say he got hurt and he tore, God, I don't even want to say it. Let's just say something happened that devastating. There's a world where this stuff could go sideways. That's why you're cuffing. Like I wouldn't be in here. I'd be in here saying, don't draft Blake Corum if I was such a biased hater against this. And I came in with a non-objective viewpoint. And I'm like, don't worry about him. Don't draft him. He's not even going to be the number 2. That would be like a stupid response. And that would be a very biased take on it. I'm telling you that Corum has value. I'm telling you that if Kyren went down, Corum does kind of fit the bill for a McVay runner. And it kind of has some similarities. And that's what McVay said. This is a great cuff to have. This is a secure cuff to have. In some ways, Kyren at 3.1 and Blake Corum is better than Kyren at 2.2 without any cuff at all. So the question is, this is similar to when people said Smitty, and I don't take this back, and I don't think I failed on this. I think Seattle just failed to use their running backs correctly. But if you go back in time when Charbonnet was drafted, Walker was going in round 2 in fantasy football drafts, mid-round 2, right? Kind of a little bit below where Kyren was going just, for months and months. But when you sit here and you look at this situation and you say to yourself, I have the ability to draft Kenneth Walker in round 2, or he falls to round 6 or 5, and I just cuff Charbonnet to him. What's better? What's the lower cost of entry with the most ceiling? The Walker Charbonnet. And just because Walker and Charbonnet didn't really pan out, you can't just translate that over to this situation and try and paint this picture, because that technically speaking worked. Charbonnet didn't take the job. You were secured and cuffed. The problem was they misused the running backs. And if people remember back, Walker was like the league leading touchdown getter on the ground for like 3-4 weeks into the season. He was absolutely amazing. And then he ended up, and I came in week 4 or 5 and said, I know he's on fire right now, but maybe we look to trade him high. I don't want anybody to get rid of him. People got so mad at me. They're like, he's a moon man. You've been pumping him up all offseason. Now you're telling us to trade Walker? Like, that's ridiculous. That's not ridiculous. That's you adjusting and adapting throughout the season. I'll always do that. I'll always do that. And I'm telling people right now, I wouldn't press the button necessarily. I might just to avoid the questions all year, to be honest, because it's going to get annoying. But it's a positive and a negative. There is a negative. There is a negative because you say to yourself, what if he got banged up and Corum came in, looked good, and then you got a running back by committee? Of course there's a threat, okay? This is also a low draft capital running back, and that does put him in a little bit more of a vulnerable spot. This is me being real. than the average, like, first or second round running back. Bijan goes down and the backup comes in and looks great. Bijan's not losing his job because he was a top 10 overall pick. Kyren gets banged up. Corum comes in and looks great. There's a little bit more of a tendency for NFL coaches to say, look, we didn't spend a ton on him. Like, we can run both of them, and like, because they don't have the pressure of get your first rounder out there. It's a weird logic, but it's true in the NFL. But this guy is beloved by McVay, and I have zero concern about him holding off every single running back in the National Football League, but Hall and Bijan and guys like that in the top 5. This guy doesn't care who's behind him. He's got St. Brown mentality. You think you're going to take my job? You think I'm not the best running back in the league? This guy's outworking everybody in the offseason right now. So again, my last point here is this. You have Blake Corum and Kyren cuffed at 3.1 in double-digit rounds versus just Kyren with no backup, with no security if he gets banged up and misses 4 or 5 games. Give me the cuffing situation over the non-cuffing situation with the discount from 2.2, 2.3 Kyren to 3.1 Kyren. I don't understand why this isn't a positive in some respects to people. I really don't get it. I don't get how we don't see this as a very solid cuffing situation without a real big threat at all to the number 1 running back's production. Unless there's injury, and some might predict that, and there's some weird running back by committee awaiting Kyren upon his return, I have zero fear about this situation. I'm only intrigued more the fact that I can secure up the Rams running back no matter what now at 3.1 and double-digit round cuffing value. Hang tight real quick. I got disagreeing Carl, who I know is going to disagree with me on this call, and I'll probably end up hanging up on him. And I got Travis, so hang tight. I got Zerby coming in with the
super chats too.
Yeah, I'm going to do these first. Super chat from Burb and Zerby, okay. and Birds. Burb and Birds dropping super chat. That's wild. And Rob Hess dropping a super chat. Let me get these out of the way real quick. Dynasty League, I have an offer. My 1.6 in George Pickens for Achan. I think this could go both ways. I lean toward Achan. I'm not scared off by Jalen Wright. Again, I like Jalen Wright. And I liked Jalen Wright enough to say if he lands in a great spot, I really think it's intriguing and he could become one of those sleeping risers like Kyren was. But I don't care about Jalen Wright with Achan. I want to cuff him. So for sure, try and cuff him, but that's all he is right now. I take Achan, but, Pickens in a 1.6 depends on who fell to the 1.6, but I certainly would take Achan for me. Bird, I got Birds and Bird. Bird says $2 hauler. One thing that's facts, your stuff, Smitty. Thank you, Bird. Appreciate you dropping the $2 hauler. Dallas, and if what was that guy's name? Watts, Trevor Watts, or what was it? Trevor Watts? The other guy, it was Trevor Watts. Yeah, Trevor, if you're watching, please go to the MHJ and Cardinal live stream video with the MHJ graphic that was last night. I pinned your and put a time on your comment, your super chat, and where I commented on it. I'm so sorry you had to wait. Dallas is gonna wait till after the draft to find their Austin Eckler. Bro, Dallas, we'll talk about this in a second because I know Travis wants to talk about it. Dallas diarrhea all over the bed, and I'm gonna do a Dallas live stream. People are not gonna like what I have to say because some of it's gonna be about trading Lamb on the high. I don't want to get rid of Lamb. I'm not doubting Lamb. Lamb's beloved by this channel, but at the right price, trading him away at top 3 overall value is the smartest move right now because you have no idea what Jerry Jones is going to do to this team. I think he's absolutely lost his marbles, and this is just going in the wrong direction. And this one from Zerb with JJM to the Vikings. Does Justin Jefferson fall behind Bijan in PPR keeper league? JJM doesn't really even move Justin Jefferson's value to me. It's nice that he has a quarterback, but this isn't really that much different than like Minshew to me right now. Until JJM proves himself, This is if Gardner Minshew, like we knew that Sam Darnold probably wasn't going to be the passing, option. I've been pricing, and I think the whole world's been pricing JJ in as if the bare minimum was going to be JJ McCarthy. So Justin Jefferson with McCarthy is 6 overall value to me. Bijan is above him, no doubt about it. Go Irish, go Kyren. Thank you, Zerb. Appreciate your super chat. Thank you, Rob Hess, for your super chat. Thank you, Bird, and Zerby for your supers. Okay, Travis, what do you think on this Kyren situation? I don't mind differing opinions, but I'm pretty sure you don't have a differing opinion on this, but you're more than welcome to give your take. Do you see this as any different than Kyren at 3.1 cuffing Corum might in crafty fashion be better than this situation not unfolding this way?
No, and I agree. And to take it even a step further, just with a more broader point of it all across the league, I think we're looking at a situation where several of these spots where these guys went to, like Hall with Allen and Benson, who I think will take the job from Connor, but Connor and Benson, Kyren and Corum, even Jacobs and Lloyd to a point, you now might get a better ADP on the starting running back, but you also may be able to take one of these younger guys as the cuff, and it's such a good cuff that you may be able to not have to take an extra running back, to figure out your running back room and just have them cuff.
Yeah.
That could be a good strategy going forward.
That's a great point.
Late round cuffs rather than have to, and you can use your 7th or 8th pick to pick up another wide receiver or a second quarterback or something like that.
Yeah,
so a lot of value because like Shipley with Saquon, I think that's a really interesting backup.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's sometimes like in best ball kind of a strategy in a way when you say, okay, I'm going to take Luke Musgrave and I'm going to take Kraft, and then I'm going to have both those guys and have literally zero worry about later on having no tight end. Like sometimes you'll draft 3 or 4. Some people will. I'll draft at least 3 tight ends in a best ball that's 20 rounds because I don't want to be stuck with no tight end. But I love wasting my 3rd tight end spot instead of grabbing some other potential upside guy, grabbing Kraft to go with Luke Musgrave because then now I have it cuffed. Yeah. And it's like if the other running back or Luke, like I feel so good. In similar fashion, Blake Corum and Kyren solves that kind of problem where you're not trying to plan out, oh my God, am I going to have 2 running backs that, because they're on different teams, end up not playing at the same time? This guarantees you, and that's the nature of this. I absolutely love the cuffing value of this. I'm not going to lie. I was, like anybody, you're always kind of punched in the gut when the team invests in a position like this, when you're all in on a RB or whatever. And in the case of in the case, and I got Ron on the phone here, in the case of Kirk Cousins, the Penix Jr. getting drafted is the same kind of gut punch in a way. And it just makes you feel like, okay, what is the team thinking? It's not about necessarily what we think, because we think Kyren's the best thing in the world. But is there, like, the part of you that feels like a gut punch is saying, I know how I feel, but, like, is there maybe a chance that McVay and this team sees this different now? That's the part that I think if you were to say, can I press the button and undo it, just to get rid of that potential, like, that we can't control. But I can say in the case of Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, there's no chance that Braylon Allen's there to take anything from Breece Hall. Like, maybe some goal line work potentially, but Breece Hall wasn't, like, guaranteed a whole bunch of goal line work anyway. He's going to score from the 5-yard line, the 7-yard line, the 10-yard line. He's going to catch passes. I have no real problems. Like, what if he gets two or three touchdown opportunities get taken every, like, 7 games? Like, that's the kind of, like, running back vulturing that Braylon Allen could do, I suppose. But am I worried about Achane losing his job to Jalen Wright? No, because Achane's going to have his role. He kind of, like, you could almost look at Achane in a similar fashion like you look at Debo. Whatever happens in the wide receiver room, like, Debo's got his role in his, like design plays. And while I don't know how many design plays, I'm pretty sure there are a lot. there are for Achane. It's Wright's taking Mostert's role. And if Mostert were to go down, we've always said, we always said, you know, if Achane gets in there, and I'll do an Achane video, Achane would worry some people as the go-to full-time starter, getting all the carries. What if he gets hurt? He bulked up a lot, so we're a little less worried about that. But, like, Achane is not going anywhere. And Miami even had 3 running backs at one time, and Achane still was doing his thing. I think a Mostert goes down, Jalen Wright comes in, but there's a real good opportunity. Jalen Wright is no better than any of the backups that have ever been there. Anyway, this is why he's been passed over. He's an upside guy that needed the perfect situation, and I don't think this is a horrible situation for him because it's a nice offense, but I'm not worried about these. It's just not ideal on the surface level, but if you think about it with the dropped ADP advantage that we now get handed with Kyren dropping now down from top of 2 down to potentially 3.1, it's a blessing in disguise. Hold on one second, Travis. Go, real quickly, and I'm going to go to Ron, then go to disagreeing Carl.
The one situation I wanted your take on was Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. Now, because Bucky Irving had 56 receptions last year, so he can do a lot of what Rachaad White does. Does that worry you?
A little bit, and
or do you see him more as a third down back?
A little bit. The only thing that I hate about that is they didn't draft the complement. Like, from the Tampa Bay Buck perspective, they didn't draft the complement to Rachaad White. They drafted another Rachaad White. So it doesn't really...
Right.
It doesn't make sense, to be honest with you. But again, like, is he taking Rachaad White's work? It almost... Bucky Irving almost, I think, put a nail in the coffin of Bucky Irving being good unless Rachaad White gets injured. Because is he really going to come in and take the bread and butter work away from the guy that does it the best? I think Bucky Irving's a cuff. This might have been a good thing for Rachaad White in that Bucky Irving's not a between the tackle guy, so they didn't draft a guy to replace his between the tackle work. So I think it's a good cuffing situation. Not too worried. Ron Navy, you're live. Then over to disagreeing Carl.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, it's spring days at Harbor Freight, 30% off. I just figured I'd share the ad with you.
Here,
he is a unicorn.
I'm concerned about Corum. I like Corum better than you do. I look at it like this, okay? And everybody's getting all crazy and everything else.
Panties
like that,
in a bunch.
Look at Najee and Warren. Look at Montgomery and Gibbs. Look at all these guys. And it's good that he has Corum behind him because now you can save his legs. You can take him out of the game. You can rest him more. He'll last longer. Less chance for injuries. And they're both going to feed. I think they'll both feed. I think they'll both get what they're, So I have no problem with Kyren and Corum. I think it'll work out great. I think they'll both get theirs and all that. As far as the whole Cousins thing go, I'm not upset with that because, okay, I love Cousins. And I think he's going to be great, but we still haven't seen him on the field after his Achilles. And like you said before, the chances of him maybe injuring the other one or whatever, you got to have some sort of insurance there. And plus, I think if everything checks out with him, hey, Penix, he loses. Yeah, he's a little older, so he loses probably 2 years or whatever of being a starter if Cousins performs like he normally performs. But what better person to sit behind and learn from than Cousins for 1 or 2 years where you're waiting your turn?
I was not expecting this from Ron. I was not expecting this from Ron.
It makes sense.
I know. I'm just saying, like, you put your head into a cold bath, pulled it out, and thought logically.
The only part that pisses me off.
No,
the only part that pisses me off is they didn't tell Cousins.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Cousins is pissed. Okay, hold on one second, Ron. Ron, I agree with all.
Cousins can go to the Steelers now in a year or two.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, Ron, and I'm going to have a Atlanta Falcons video to address all of this. So expect that probably later today. I wanted to hit this one first because this is the most panic. And then as this was happening, the other 2 draft selections happened. So I must have to do an Achane video.
Don't even cut it up.
No,
was you mentioned him. So
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not trying to.
About Corum first.
Yeah, no. I'm not trying to say that was bad to bring up. I'm just saying for everybody watching, I'm going to have a bigger video on this. Let me go to disagreeing Carl real quick just to see what he's going to disagree with real quick, and I'm sure this is going to be a Kiren Williams hating call. But go ahead, disagreeing Carl. Surprise me.
No, I'm actually in a Superflex rookie mock. I mean, a rookie draft, and I'm at the 106, and I'm ecstatic that both Roma Dunze and Malik Neighbors is available. I just want to know who would you choose between the two, because I can't make a decision. I want them both.
I would probably say, God, in Dynasty, I lean Neighbors a little bit because the quarterback situation is going to change for him. Dable is an amazing cultivating QB, mind. Now, granted, you could say, well, then why in the hell did they sign Danny Dimes? What kind of mastermind is this? I don't know how much of that had to do with him. I kind of feel like, I kind of feel like Odunze is in such a crowded wide receiver room, and I don't love and trust the Bears all that much. But in a year or two, that dust could settle too. And you talk about Keenan Allen being an old man, and a year from now, he's not a factor. You talk about DJ Moore. DJ Moore's still there. I don't know. I kind of lean toward Neighbors if I'm picking between these two guys in a dynasty mindset. And plus, Odunze's not going to have a better year than I think Neighbors from a redraft perspective anyway, because of how crowded it is in Chicago. So I'd say Neighbors. I think Neighbors is better. I'm not going to lie. I'm tempted to say, just consider Trey Benson, but I don't know. Trey Benson is so exciting to me, but you can't do that. Take Neighbors, try and trade up and get Trey Benson as well. I'm so excited about the Cardinals. Oh my God, this is just such a unbelievable draft for me. I can't believe the Cardinals have Trey Benson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, Kyler Murray, some nice defensive pieces, by the way. The Cardinals are trying to fill the holes on defense. This is probably the best draft that anybody's had. The Eagles are having a fantastic draft. The Eagles have probably had, by far and away, the best offseason out of any team in the National Football League. Dallas Cowboys probably get the worst offseason grade. The Niners have drafted better in the second, third, and fourth rounds. They crapped the bed, I think, in the first two picks, given what they could have done by drafting like a Ladd McConkey and a Dijon instead of going Parasol. And I think they did that because they thought they were trading Debo. They thought the Bills were going to... I truly believe, even though I missed on that at the end of the day, I think I was right. I think the Buffalo Bills scooted back because they liked all these receivers anyway. They scooted back into the 2.1 so that they give themselves the entire night and morning and afternoon break between first and second round to work out a deal for Debo or Ayuk. A deal never ended up happening. They ended up maybe even thinking about it, saying, you know what, we really like this kid. We're going to go after Keon Coleman instead. And they just wanted time to think about it, right? And the Niners drafted Parasol. We heard Dijon was drafted, right? And then all of a sudden Parasol got switched. You got to wonder why that happened. Did they think last second, let's do a Parasol drafting so we don't get screwed if we trade Debo or Ayuk? That never ended up happening. So the Niners, my whole point was the Niners, I think, had a horrible F- offseason up to the draft, had an F day one, had a very B drafting the rest of the way. So the Niners, who are in my F or D offseason grade, have climbed in because they did a better job in the draft. Dallas Cowboys have diarrheaed the bed the entire offseason. They didn't go after a running back like Henry or Barkley or Jacobs. They don't draft a running back in this draft class. They don't extend Dak Prescott, putting him in a volatile situation. They don't extend their head coach. They don't extend Parsons. Jerry's very much all over the place. We're not extending anybody. We're focused on right now. Oh, you think I'm not trying to extend these guys? He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know where he is right now. What's this guy doing? What's this guy doing? Is anybody taking? Is the first lady of Dallas running the team? That's what it feels like. Oh, look! How do I get off the stage? That's how I feel like Jerry's doing. It's almost like we're watching a mirror image of someone else. this is all I'm going to say. And I don't even know why I got on this tangent, but Dallas gets a F. Dallas gets an F, and I'm worried like hell. Worried like hell. But yeah, Ray G makes a really good point. Does Frank Gore Jr. go to Dallas? Then I'm excited about Frank Gore Jr. We'll see where
their last hope.
It is their last hope, but are they smart enough to know that? Does Houston take Frank Gore Jr.? That is my sleeping giant. Now, does he become an undrafted free agent though somewhere? And then his draft capital is low, but they're still intrigued there. Frank Gore Jr. is my guy. Okay, disagreeing, Carl. I say neighbors. Hang tight. Let me go back to Travis, then to Ron Navy. I'm gonna probably wrap this up in about 5 minutes here. I gotta take care of the little ones today. It's my job. But I'll be back in like a couple hours to probably do the Kirk Cousins video, I think. Travis, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not going to quite say this for sure, but I think Bryce Young is starting to become like a deep sleeper.
I agree.
Because they got Brooks, Leggett, and they just took Jatavion Sanders, he reminds me a lot of like a Julius Thomas.
I agree.
The same size, very athletic, pass catching tight end. I mean, and they, Deontay Johnson is solid. Thielen's still there.
Carolina
there.
Carolina walking into the draft.
They got him a couple of linemen in free agency. So
Carolina walking into the draft, not because of their offseason, just the state of their team. F. Absolute trash.
Right.
Worst team in the league. Carolina had an A+ draft. Carolina dragged themselves from an F to a C overall offseason. Maybe C+.
They brought Bryce Young back to life.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's hope. There's hope for this kid.
Frankenstein on the table.
I don't know why they did some of the moves they did. Everyone's excited about, Deontay, etc. Like Thielen, people were all excited about. Like they've done these little Mickey Mouse moves, Miles Sanders, like all these stupid moves. But like now, right from the beginning of the draft until now, nothing but amazing moves. And Leggett's perfect for Bryce Young, who needs that F it, he's over there somewhere type of guy, because Bryce Young's still going to see a lot of collapsing and unfortunate situations coming his way because they're still developing everything. So he needs that guy that you could throw the ball, kind of like Dante Culpepper throwing to Randy Moss. It was like Dante Culpepper was not that accurate or good of a quarterback, but the guy knew how to launch a football into a territory of space that could be dominated by the wide receiver that was going to get the football. And Leggett's very much DK Metcalf-esque in terms of throw the ball up in the air anywhere inside this guy's catch radius, and Leggett's going to be able to just find it. And so that's perfect for Bryce Young and his accuracy development. I'm really, really, you hit the nail on the head. I'm really intrigued by Carolina right now. It's such an amazing turnaround. Fantastic job, and props to them. And I've torn them down a lot, so that's objective too.
It's just really nice to see a team like actually do that, because you see too many teams that just leave these first-round picks out to dry, the quarterbacks, and like you said, make these Mickey Mouse moves or do one thing, say, "Oh, that's good, we did this one big move" or whatever. But they're truly trying to build something around them, like. Even in free agency, they didn't have great free agency, but they got a couple linemen that made their line better. And now in the draft, they're making real moves on offense.
Mike says, Smitty, can you show the Bears some love and put Caleb on the Satellite Man list, which is now the midseason monster list. It's not Satellite Man list, and look at the weaponry, and you love Rome. So let me be honest here, and I'll have a video on this as well. I gotta have a video on everything. I gotta sit here and tomorrow is the day. Crank out like 8 videos on these different topics. So I need to do Chicago. I need to do a Philly video. I need to do a Atlanta video. I need to do the Cuff video. Okay, so my thinking here is this. Mike, I always try and bring honesty to the table. I mean, look what I just did, a 180 on the Carolina Panthers, and that's true. It's genuine, it's real, it's facts, it's me being completely honest. You want that from me. You don't want somebody who just says something and just sticks to it because they said it. Like, I can't stand that people come at me during this season. They're like, you said this guy was going to be good on your Moon Man list. Why are you changing your tune? What in the hell you want me to do? Like, really? You want me to just stick to what I said? Like a blind bat? Like, what am I supposed to do? But, Mike, here's the thing. Like, is Caleb set up fantasy-wise? Yes, he is. I mean, Keenan Allen, like I said, the wheels will fall off, but, like, he set up pretty well with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze. I think Swift is going to break. I don't think Swift is even a thought in my mind right now. I just want to make that abundantly clear. As much as I love the guy, he got overworked like a mad dog in Philly. Philly absolutely it broke this kid. Philly broke this kid. And I don't think anybody's going to realize that until this season when they see Swift completely fold. And I hate to say that. I love DeAndre Swift. He had such a fantastic year when you look at it, when all is said and done. Let me put Swift's numbers up on screen, and you can see what I mean, because I don't believe I'm going to be wrong on this one. I think Chicago grabbed this kid after he has 300,000 miles equivalent driven on him, and someone's saying, I'll give you a warranty. Here's DeAndre Swift. This is what DeAndre Swift did last year. Okay? He started off on fire. They used him. He was phenomenal. He was on the Moon Man list. We loved him. He was running back 71 in week 1. Then he was 4, 15, 12, 10, 9. Very, very good. But look what happened. Running back 23, running back 14, running back 25, bye week. Running back 9, that was good, but he had rest right after bye week. Then week 12, 32, 37, 52, 28, 14, 39, didn't play. He fell off the face of the earth, similar to hitting a rookie wall, because he's never really had a rookie wall. And he hit a rookie wall hard. And the one thing you got to notice about rookie walls is the good ones break through it. And even though he was not a rookie, this was like his rookie wall. This guy finally got what was an NFL season and not a college season, and he absolutely folded. These are horrible numbers down the stretch. I don't think he's an elite running back from a between the tackles perspective, and I don't think he gets the change of pace work that to the tune of like an H-hand. So I'm not worried about Swift like doing well. Do I think Caleb could throw good amounts of yards and touchdowns? Look, Fields did it. I've never once said Caleb is going to bust out of the league in terms of his skills. I think if he busts out of the league early for some reason, it'll be because of his inability to maybe lead and his quirky personality that I don't ever see in a starting quarterback. And maybe this is the first time we see as people call him, a zesty quarterback or whatever his personality type is. Maybe this is the first time we see this type of quarterback survive in the NFL, and then we see more of it. I don't know if it's a new generational thing coming up and we're just being get off my lawn type people here. But I don't see this personality type surviving, because Drew Lock didn't, Johnny Manziel didn't, Josh Rosen didn't. Then there's different versions of that personality, and I think he's got all of those wrapped up in one. At some point, I think this falls apart on him. But keep in mind, did Justin Fields have more top 10 finishes than 9 other quarterbacks in the National Football League last year? Yes. He was number 7 in top 5 quarterback finishes, Justin Fields, in Chicago, and he still failed. So am I going to put Caleb on the midseason monster list? No. Is there a world where he still produces fantasy production? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean he'll win games, doesn't mean he won't fail at the expectation level. I'm not putting him on any list. I still do not believe in Caleb Williams, even if he doesn't actually physically fail out of the league and still has production but loses games. And the first time this guy loses a big game or whatever, I don't know what he's going to do. Like, I can't shake that he crawled into his mama's arms and wept like a baby over a loss of a football game. Instead of, if he was emotional, stood with his boys on the field and walked off together. You know, they're looking around for this guy. I can't shake it. And I probably won't. You could say I'm hanging on a thread here. And some will say that. I don't think so. But there is a lot of production here, and I don't necessarily think he'll bust out of the league. I just don't think he's going to be this number 1 overall pick person. I think JD5's the clear-cut number 1 overall quarterback and number 1 overall pick. Him and Marvin Harrison Jr. are just absolute smashes. I think Caleb is probably very capable of being a top 10 quarterback in fantasy. I think he's probably capable of feeding top 10 wide receiver numbers to either DJ Moore or Rome Odunze or Keenan Allen for half of a year before he gets injured. There's certainly that capability. Top 10 fantasy numbers for Caleb are not out of the question. It's just a matter of in a dynasty. So redraft maybe as a backup. I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but in dynasty, I don't know why, but I can't see it working out. I just can't. I don't, you could say that's dumb logic or what in the hell you basing it on, Smitty. I guess 25 plus years professionally evaluating players coming out of the NFL draft and just being worried like hell about this one. That's all I can tell you. Chicago will make the playoffs and win one game, says Golf. Golf, $50 hauler. He wants that prediction on the board. Hang tight, guys. $50 hauler, bold prediction. Golf dropping it.
Alert. Alert.
$50. Give me $50 holler. Get by the brother, Smitty. Give me $50. Oh, yeah.
Chicago. What is his prediction? Chicago will make the playoffs, win one. So one playoff game. Win one playoff game. That's Golf. Golf, appreciate that, bro. Golf to the moon. All right, I got to wrap it up, boys. Ron Navy, thank you for the gifted memberships. You're the man, the myth, the legend. Any final thoughts, Ron? Golf to the moon.
Yeah, I feel like you do with Caleb. I had my big bold prediction on the board that he's sitting on the bench middle of the season sometimes. So
yeah, Ron's got a $50 hauler that Bajent starts more games than Caleb.
And then he's going to probably end up on the Steelers. When he fails, he'll end up on the Steelers. But another thing is Chicago. Even if we believed in Caleb's talent and all this, Chicago can't develop quarterbacks. They haven't been able to. They're the only quarterback that holds all the records for Chicago is Jay Cutler. He was the last any type of successful quarterback he was in, and since then they've had nothing really. So haven't been able to develop anybody. Haven't been able to support the quarterback position with anything, and yeah, it's just ridiculous. And he'll probably end up on the Steelers. God forbid.
Yeah.
But I just, I don't believe in him at all.
I mean, that's the bigger thing is Chicago has not developed anybody.
To me, I don't like JD5's landing spot. I don't like him on Washington. I wish he would have landed somewhere else.
Really?
But I think, yeah, because everybody that goes to Washington, the same thing.
Yeah, but Adam Peters is different.
And all that, and they all just crapped out.
Adam Peters is having a phenomenal draft.
I think, but I honestly think like at least three. We could have like 1990 or 1984 draft where you got Elway and Elway, Marino, and that draft class there. I think you could. I think JJ's set up for success simply because of where he is and he's under Sullivan and the weapons that he has. I think we're going to see success out of JJ. I think we're going to see success out of May. JD5. I hope we see success out of. I just don't like his landing spot.
All right.
That's all. I don't deny his.
All right, Ron, appreciate your $1,000 hauler.
You know what?
What?
You're hungry and you need to go eat. You need like a big thick burger.
Yeah, I got to run.
Big thick like pizza. Yeah, you need to eat.
All right, Ron, appreciate you.
And you're welcome. I like making that.
Yeah, Ron, thanks for the gifted memberships too. Appreciate you. Ron Navy, ladies and gentlemen.
I threw another 20 up there.
You what?
I threw another 20 up there, so people should be happy. All green. It's a green day today.
Let's see. Gifted memberships. Gifted. Ron gifted 20 memberships. Ron gifted 50 memberships. And let me just make sure I got everybody's gifted memberships I think Ron gifted, 50. And did anybody gift any others? No. Okay. I think I got it covered. Thank you, Ron. Appreciate you. Ron to the moon.
Later.
I'll work on Ron's button.
Bye.
Where Ron gets some sort of animation. All right, Travis, as quick as you can. I got everybody waiting on me.
Yeah, I'm all good.
All right, later. Travis, appreciate you. Later.
Bye.
Guys, Kyren Williams, don't panic on him. He's a Saturn man. And the fact that you could get him cheaper and cuff him to a very, very solid cuff that has nothing on him at all. It's a great cuffing situation. Everybody needs a backup. Let the panic ensue. Let everybody... They've already doubted Kyren. Kyren had so much doubt behind him. This is only going to throw fuel on the fire. And Kyren, to me, at 3.1 is bigger win-a-league material than before. Troy Franklin, here's another $50 hauler from Golf. He's dropping another one. Troy Franklin, second in fantasy, 1,000 yards and 9 TDs. Wow.
$50. Give me $50 holler. Like that by the brother Smitty. Give me $50. Oh, yeah.
1,009 TDs. That's a nice one. That's a nice one, Golf. Okay, Franklin, nice prediction. Franklin, appreciate you all. On that note, I'll be back to discuss the other running backs, Achane with Jalen Wright, Braylon Allen with Breece Hall. I'll do separate videos on each one of these, and then I'll do an Atlanta Falcon video, especially around Penix Jr. See you all tonight, or today, probably today, for one of those 3 videos.
He's Kyren, he's 7 feet tall, and he knows how to handle a ball. He's Kyren, he can take frowns and turn them upside down with his touchdowns.
The Saturn Men.
Kyren ain't going anywhere.
Step for man, 1 giant leap for Saturn.
I'm not leaving. He's not leaving. Thank you, Golf, again for the $50 haulers. Golf dropping another $50 hauler. Golf, you owe me another prediction. You didn't attach anything, but we'll certainly add one. Just please call in or post it later. I need your other prediction. Thank you. Golf dropping 50, 50, 50. Golf dropping 3 50s to Saturn.
To Saturn.
Golf, appreciate you, my guy, dropping 3 $50 wads. You're a unicorn. My guy, I got to put you on the unicorn list for dropping 150 right there. Let me see if I can get this off screen. Okay, here we go. Let me go over to the unicorn board.
He is a unicorn.
Golf, absolute epic monster day with the 150. So Golf, appreciate you. Let me fix this graphic here and put you up on the unicorn board. Golf to the moon. 150 from Golf today. Ron Navy with the biggest super chat of all time. $1,002 essentially. Jeez. Guys, go view this video right here. This is the Arizona Cardinal video. We did this last night. Probably one of my favorite videos of the year. Golf, thanks again, pal. Thanks to all my super chatters. Thank you, Ron Navy, for dropping 50 and 20 gifted memberships. Guys, if you got a gifted membership from Ron, thank him. Rob Hess, Bird, and Zerb. And then Trevor Watts. If you're watching, Trevor, please acknowledge my pinned comment on the Marvin Harrison Jr. Cardinal stream. In the comments, I pinned a comment that shows you exactly where your super chat was answered. And please reply there and let me know you saw it. Because, Trevor, I want to take care of you. And you dropped a $10 hauler, and I want you to feel loved, appreciated, and supported, my guy. All right, see you all a little bit later today for more videos. Appreciate you. If anybody super chats on the way out, just please leave it in the comments that you super chatted and ask a question. See you all later.